Video is simply to begin documenting my experimentation with amino acids and their effects on neurotransmitters. I'm simply going to be expressing my experience and basically review my experiences with neurotransmitters or amino acids and how they affect neurotransmitters. For example, 5-HTP is something that I've been taking every day for this past week, and I've experienced benefits but also side effects, depending on what herbs I include on the side. So 5-HTP is a calming amino acid, and it is a precursor to serotonin. Now, of course, it's commonly referred to as a antidepressant, which is interesting because when I think of a depressant, I'm thinking of something that brings you down, slows you down. And when you take 5-HTP or something to boost serotonin, you can feel happier, but a lot of times it's because it's calming you down. So it's helping you to relax a little bit, which helps you have a better perspective and feel better about your life. So 5-HTP does just that. Of course, for me personally, when I was 8 years old, I had started going through the pharmaceutical, medical whole ordeal as a child, and they put me on pharmaceutical medication. I was on Seroquel, basically SSRI drugs, from the age of 8 all the way until I was about 20. And so I, basically those drugs caused a lot of serotonin in my body. So of course I'm very familiar with the effects of serotonin, and something I noticed is when I have too much serotonin, I tend to feel more depressed, more illogical and irrational. It's almost like the amygdala, part of the brain responsible for processing emotion, is overreactive, which when this happens and you're overly emotional, it clouds your logical judgment, or you could say the balance functions of the prefrontal cortex, which is decision making and logical, rational thought, critical thought, and perspective. And so I noticed 5-HTP the first couple days that I started taking it. I was feeling good. Now I'll tell you, I started taking St. John's Wort along with it. And a lot of people don't understand. They think that St. John's Wort is an herb that, keeps serotonin in the brain, or it can cause serotonin syndrome, but that's not true. St. John's Wort, I felt as if St. John's Wort was simply making me more sensitive to serotonin. It made it more pronounced. Now, scientifically, it is commonly, I've seen this many times before, the mechanism of action behind St. John's Wort seems to be that it sensitizes receptor sites to serotonin. And so when your receptor sites are desensitized, that means that the neurotransmitters will be less effective. So if you have high serotonin but desensitized receptor sites, you won't be feeling that serotonin as much. Pharmaceutical drugs and drugs of all kind actually desensitize your receptor sites, which makes you feel crappy and you have withdrawal symptoms. That's what causes withdrawal. Now, when you take St. John's Wort, it actually does the opposite. It sensitizes your receptor sites, so you feel more of that neurotransmitter because you're where the neurotransmitter plugs into. Basically, it opens up and it absorbs more of that neurotransmitter, so you feel more of the effects of that neurotransmitter. So St. John's Wort, basically, in essence, it amplifies the effects of serotonin. It amplifies the effects of 5-HTP. So if you're taking 5-HTP and you don't feel too much of a difference, you can try taking St. John's Wort along with it. Now, what I noticed though is the more St. John's Wort I take, the more sleepier 5-HTP makes me feel, and I tend to feel more sadness and depression. It's almost as if I receive too much serotonin, not as in serotonin syndrome, but I believe it just oversensitized me to serotonin, and When you have too much serotonin, this can cause depression. And for me, I definitely noticed that. So the first 2 days of taking 5-HTP, along with about 1,400 milligrams of whole herb St. John's wort, not the extract, but St. John's wort, the whole herb. I took about 1.4 grams. That's 1,400 milligrams of St. John's wort. I was feeling okay for the first 2 days. I was feeling more sleepy, and I actually did. I took it around 10 a.m. in the morning, and I fell asleep for about 2 hours after taking it both times. And when I woke up, I felt good. I felt calm. I felt fine. I was completely relaxed, and I went to the gym, and I took 2 scoops of a very powerful pre-workout, which contains a lot of caffeine. What I want you to understand is when you combine caffeine with these serotonin boosting amino acids and herbs, this can change the effects and the results drastically. So without a doubt, I felt so much better. I felt calm, relaxed, but definitely pumped up, definitely sharp, and motivated. However, I noticed the next couple days, like say I skipped the gym the next day, didn't take the pre-workout or the super mega dose of caffeine, I felt pretty down, pretty sad, depressed, and weird, like reminiscing on and dwelling on memories, and it's really strange. Like I felt like a fuckboy for the first time in my life, I suppose you could say. Definitely was not a pleasant feeling. So, what should you take from all this? Well, first of all, know that just because something is called an antidepressant does not necessarily mean that it will make you happy, okay? Instead of labeling an herb or an amino acid or compound as an antidepressant, you should simply think of the mechanism of action and think in terms of neurotransmitters and what it works on exactly. Does it boost serotonin or boost dopamine, or does it sensitize the receptor sites, or does it cause the release of this neurotransmitter? What does it do exactly? Because, something that increases dopamine can have a completely different result from something that releases serotonin. Or it can have the same result. You can feel great on both of them, but they're doing completely different things. So labeling it as an antidepressant or what have you is not effective. So basically what I noticed is taking 5-HTP to boost serotonin, it's almost like either it builds up in your system over time, and then you have to slowly stop taking the precursors, stop taking 5-HTP or what have you, and wean off of it. Otherwise, serotonin might boost too much, and you'll have too much serotonin, which can make you depressed and sad. Or B, you need to take something on the side of it. So if you're taking 5-HTP, that's the precursor to serotonin. Most people report feeling depressed or not depressed, but lower energy, too calm or sleepy, so they'd rather take it at nighttime. Then you'll have more melatonin and help you go to sleep at night, which is a better idea anyway. But if you're taking it in the morning, try to take it alongside with tyrosine. What I'm planning on doing is stopping 5-HTP altogether and take theanine in the morning along with tyrosine, so that I boost dopamine and noradrenaline along with GABA, and probably taking taurine along with it. Taurine will help to turn glutamate over into GABA. And glutamate is an excitotoxin. It excites neurotransmitters and speeds up the brain. So when you take taurine, it actually slows that down and it shifts over the process, because glutamate is an antagonist of GABA. So I will report back when I start taking tyrosine along with theanine. One more caveat I want to mention is rhodiola. A lot of people don't understand rhodiola. They think that it boosts dopamine and yada yada. They think it's another great antidepressant, yada yada. But rhodiola actually is very serotoninogenic, and I can tell you right now, the effects I feel on rhodiola are very similar to St. John's Wort and 5-HTP. And I feel like rhodiola is a much more powerful version of St. John's Wort. And when I added rhodiola to St. John's Wort and 5-HTP, that made me super depressed and just made me start thinking crazy. So don't think that the more serotonin you have, the better you'll feel. And keep in mind, rhodiola by itself will have a completely different effect than rhodiola along with 5-HTP, and vice versa. Okay? So there's a science to it. It's an art. It's an art and it's a science. And it's all about experimentation, biohacking, and doing your research, okay? And fully trying to understand what these things do. Okay, so 5-HTP, is it good? There is, great possibility. Is it bad? Could be if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, so subscribe and post your comments and questions down below.